Hey, Black Belt Reads. Let's recap February. February was a very successful reading month for me because there was a huge snowstorm here where I live. So I couldn't work. I had the whole week off of work. So I got a lot read, got a lot done. It was really, really fun. It wasn't fun being in the snowstorm, but it was fun getting a chance to read. It was French February. So I have several French authors that I tackled. Of course, you can see this massive beast, one of the biggest books I've ever read. It was quite the undertaking. Les Miserables. So, finally finished this. Moved on to something I could read in just one single sitting, which I did. Story of the Eye by George Bataille. Incredibly different. So I'm going to do a whole video about the French novels that I read because I have a couple more. One that I'm so close to finishing. So just going to do those in another video. I have a lot of books here, so I'm going to try to go through them relatively quickly. Otherwise, the video will be super long. The horror. The horror. I did continue to read older classic books that I wanted to either revisit or read for the first time. It's just a little challenge I've been doing, reading, all of certain authors' books, going back and reading classic books that I read when I was a kid or that I never got around to. This is one that I had never read, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I had seen the movie. Apocalypse Now is sort of based on this novel, but I had never read the book, so finally tackled it. It was very, very well written, beautifully written, especially considering Joseph Conrad, English isn't even his first language. He learned English later in life and then wrote a novel in English. Very impressive to me. I love hearing that kind of stuff. But this is, of course, the man who goes out into the jungle and we meet Kurtz. So I won't spend too much long on these books, but this was great. A very quick read. Nothing super challenging about it. The themes are there, highly enjoyable. There's 100 videos on YouTube about Heart of Darkness, so I do recommend it. It was a good read. Now, one that I don't hear people talk about, unlike Heart of Darkness, I don't ever hear anybody talk about William Gay, The Lost Country. This was probably my favorite book that I read all month. If I got to put one at the top, it's probably this one, The Lost Country. This was just right up my alley. I love Southern Gothic style literature. This was very reminiscent of Cormac McCarthy, which is what brought me to the book. A lot of people said if you liked Cormac McCarthy, especially Suttree, then you got to check out William Gay. And Suttree is, probably my favorite book of all time. So I was excited to hear that. And they were all correct. The Lost Country is extremely McCarthy esque. And I believe he actually says that he was inspired by McCarthy and by the book Suttree specifically. This is a really interesting book. It was published posthumously, however you say that. It was published after he died. But the book was completely finished. It's not one of these books that was pieced together after he died and thrown out there. It was completely finished. And his publisher asked him when he was still alive, "Can you turn in the book for us?" And he said, "I lost it." So I think this guy led a pretty wild life. He wrote a ton of books, but he didn't even get published until he was almost 60 years old. I think he was 59 or something crazy. Absolutely crazy. That should be really inspiring to any writers out there. This dude didn't get published till he was almost 60, and he spent all those years honing the craft of writing, and it really paid off. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see his success, but his readers did. I really, really enjoyed this book. It was perfect Southern literature the kind of thing that I'm into. You know, I'm from the South. I live in the South. That just speaks to me. It was heartbreaking, funny, dark. It's one of those books that I will probably reread again in the future, and I'm really excited to read some more of William Gay's library. Yeah, so if you're into that kind of thing, highly recommend that. Definitely check it out. For me, it was probably the best book I read this month. All right, moving over to what I thought was going to be a horror novel. You know, I always pepper in horror novels, lead at least one, two every month. So this month I did Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. I don't know. I think I had a stroke right there. This actually threw me off because I thought it was a horror book. It's really not a horror book at all. It's more of a like thriller, I guess. I didn't love it. I'm not a big thriller guy. I don't know. They're kind of like fun while you're reading them, and then when it's done, you completely don't care anymore. Unlike The Lost Country, you know, after I've read it, I've thought about it all the time and all the character work and everything. This just didn't quite do it for me. The writing was good. The story was entertaining. I think I was under the impression that Malfi was a horror writer, and I think he is. This may be an outlier of his, but you know, it's got like a little bit of maybe supernatural to it, but no horror at all really. It's more about like a serial killer. So if that's your thing, you probably would like it. I'm not really into the serial killer stuff so much. Sometimes. Anyway, all right, moving on to some graphic novels that I finished. Lucifer. I mean, what a outstanding cover by Jock. So yes, this is based on the Sandman universe by Neil Gaiman. I know he's, you know, very controversial right now. Sucks. You know, I don't want to buy any more Neil Gaiman books, but I have a whole shelf dedicated to him. So, you know, what do you do when an author you love turns out to be a creep? It seems to happen a lot. For some reason, really creative, artistic people get power and then they are, you know, dirtbags. Anyway, that being said, I really enjoyed this graphic novel, Lucifer. This isn't written by Neil Gaiman. It's written by Dan Watters. The art, um, Max Fiumara and Sebastian Fiumara, brothers. The art is absolutely fantastic. This it's a little confusing whenever I started to read it. You know, I'm like a little confused of what is going on, but the deeper I got, once I got toward the end, I was just so into it. I was just blown away by how creative and how fun this was. The only problem is volume one here, very easy to get. I think I got it for like half off, you know, like they're giving it away. But I think it's 4 volumes. 2, 3, and 4 are all sold out everywhere. You can't get them unless you want to pay way over market value, which I refuse to do. So I'll have to read the rest of the series digitally, but I highly recommend this. Highly, highly. This is about Lucifer, of course, who is fallen son. Yeah, he's no longer ruling over hell. He's in the mortal world doing his own thing, and he gets sort of trapped. It's very interesting, very cool. If you like the Sandman and all that stuff, this is right up that lane. All right, that being said, I loved Lucifer, but I did not love Deadpool. This is a huge Omni. It took me like 2 weeks to finish this thing because it's really big, but also I just didn't like it. This I'm not very negative, right? Most of the time you see me on these videos, I'm very positive. I really only read things I know I'm gonna love or hope I'm gonna love. This, I thought I would like it. I really did not like it. I think that I am just not the kind of audience for that Deadpool humor. I liked the Deadpool movies, but this was just like a total waste of time for me. I wish I hadn't read it. I wish I would have spent my time elsewhere. I'll be throwing this thing up on my eBay page to sell it because I just did not enjoy it. I'd never want to read it again. It was just like, you know, funny, that zany, wacky humor. It's just not my thing. There were moments that I enjoyed through the book, of course. You know, there's cameos, there's moments that are interesting and fun, but like overall, this was like a two. Like, I just did not like it. All right, so back to something positive. Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. The new Daredevil show is coming out soon, and I really, really wanted to finish this. I read volume one actually like a few months back. I finally finished 2, 3, and 4. These were very quick reads. Unlike Deadpool, I blew through these in like just a couple of days because the writing is fantastic. The art is absolutely incredible. You've got Elektra becomes Daredevil. So Matt Murdock, you know, he's a vigilante. He fights crime. He accidentally kills someone that he's trying to stop. And it really haunts him. Like, it tortures him in his soul because Daredevil doesn't want to kill people. He wants to just stop crime. One of the things that makes Daredevil so interesting, he's a Catholic. So he's like very, very aware of, you know, that line of doing good, but sometimes you got to do something bad to do something good. But he went too far on accident, killed someone, and basically surrenders himself to prison. So while he's in prison, Elektra sort of takes over as Daredevil. The mayor of New York is the kingpin, so you've got this super corrupt dude in power. Beautiful covers. The art is all pretty much by Marco Cicchetto. A few issues are peppered in through other artists, but yeah, whenever Marco is on the book, it is fantastic. I won't open up and show all you guys all the art. It's really, really good. Really beautiful. I'm excited for the new Daredevil show. I hope it's good. Okay, almost done. Almost done. You guys know I've been reading Cradle, Underlord by Cradle. Again, absolutely fantastic. Nobody watched my Cradle video. I don't blame you guys. Cradle is amazing. One of my favorite things right now is reading Cradle. And Underlord was no exception. It was phenomenal. Absolutely devoured it and had to physically hold myself back from starting the next book because I just want to burn through it all. But I try to spread myself out. So I won't go on too depth about Underlord. It was fantastic. I highly recommend Cradle if you're into progression fantasy, like RPG video game style fantasy. It's amazing. Okay, last little section here. I read a bunch of Star Wars books. Did a whole video about Light of the Jedi, so if you're interested in that, check it out. Highly recommend The High Republic. You start here with Light of the Jedi. After that, I did the Heir to the Empire trilogy. So Heir to the Empire, here you've got Timothy Zahn writing What Happens After Return of the Jedi. These are books from the 90s that I had read before, and I really wanted to do it again. And then I did Dark Force Rising. A lot of people call this the Thrawn trilogy. I've always called it the Heir to the Empire trilogy. There is actually a Thrawn trilogy, you know, that he's done afterward. The last one here, The Last Command. So this all culminates the end here, Last Command. Fantastic, beautifully, beautifully done. The Star Wars we all wanted and we all deserve. After I read that, I did Thrawn, the graphic novel. So this is going to be that Thrawn trilogy that I mentioned. I have those books. I decided I would just do the graphic novel. Thrawn, fantastic. I mean, I loved it. I'm even more excited now to go read the book. Some people may think, why would you read the graphic novel if you haven't read the book? I'm kind of the opposite. I like to read the graphic novel. And then when I go and read the book, I feel like you get way more detail. The book's always better, right, than the movie, than the comic. So it's like you get a taste and you get to visualize it, and then you read the book, and it gives you that added layer. So I'm very excited to read Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. But after I did Thrawn, I read Thrawn Alliances, the graphic novel, and I was so confused. It just ends abruptly. There's no conclusion at all. I'm not sure, was there supposed to be a part two? Because there's no part two in sight. I think this just came out last year, so maybe it's coming. I was just totally thrown off. I thought this was a completed graphic novel. It was not at all. Like, surely there's a part two. The book, it was only half as big as Thrawn, first of all, but it just ended so abruptly with no conclusion. Like, I didn't love it to begin with, really. As Thrawn and Vader together, it was okay. I don't know. After a little bit of research, it seems like that's not the most loved Thrawn book either. So that's unfortunate. But then I'm told the third book in that Thrawn series, Treason, is fantastic. So what do I know? All right, that was a ton of books. I wish I could talk more deeply about each one, but the videos would be so long. I only have small windows like this to record videos, so hope you enjoyed it. I will try to do a whole video about my French February because that was like the big undertaking I did this month. So I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you. If you have any recommendations based on any of these, maybe a better Deadpool book or more Star Wars books for me, or a better Ronald Malfi book. I have another one of his books right here, Small Town Horror. So hopefully it's actually a horror book. I've heard that that one's really good. So please let me know what you think, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.